Hey kids, you see that new Marvel movie called The Eternals? Well, here's some things you might have missed, maybe, I don't know you. Alright, let's start with that post-credits scene you should be kind of trained to wait for, like the good MCU lab rat that you are. This is the way of the human sphere, after all. In the final post-credits scene, we're shown Dane, totally not Jon Snow Whitman, opening up an old box to reveal a creepy sword. That sword is, of course, the Ebony Blade, which, if you read the comics, is the weapon used by the Black Knight, who, of course, is Dane Whitman's alter ego in said comics. Oh man, I'm way too... Oh my gosh, why is my head cut off? Gotta do this? Do I gotta do this? Oh boy. There we go, rookie mistake. You know, professionals actually have their monitor right above the camera so that they can see what they're doing, but not me. Not me. Earlier in the film, one of the Eternals... crap, I honestly don't remember. I don't remember which one it was. There's so many of them. Anyway, one of them, immortal scamps, picks up a sword in the Domo late in the film and refers to it as the Ebony Blade, only for another one of our litany of heroes to, I guess, correct that to Excalibur, which is a common reference point in the comics for, again, the Ebony Blade, which also dates back to Arthurian legend. Now back to that post-credits Black Knight tease, you probably noticed that voice that asks whether Dane is ready for whatever tomfoolery he's about to get into. Lucky me, I wrote this script the night I saw the movie, and of course this part's all over the news now, so surprise, it's Mahershala Ali, who of course was cast ages ago as Blade. Gotta say, the fearsome vampire hunter getting his first sort of introduction in the Eternals was not on my bingo card.
Is your blood on fire?
Of course, maybe I shouldn't have been all that surprised. After all, this is also the first film in the MCU, as far as I can recall, that directly references vampires. It's a bit of a cheeky way, but Kingo does mention that his valet tried to kill him in the past because he thought the never-aging Bollywood superstar was some kind of vampire. Which I, by the way, would love to think is a reference to my first ever Bollywood experience, Band Darwaza, which I'm probably mispronouncing actually now I'm thinking about it. Anyway, those Ramsey brothers, they sure can direct a lean, mean vampire musical, I tell you what. Oh, one other thing about Dane and his, 10 minutes of screen time. That family crest you see on that there ring that Cersei gives to Mr. Whitman is the in-comics symbol adorning the Black Knight. Not sure how many ways I can say Dane is the Black Knight, and this is a reference to that, but here we are. Our other sexy stinger comes in the form of the introduction of Harry Styles as Starfox, aka Eros. I wish I had some footage to show you there, but theatrical release, yada yada yada. In the comics, Starfox...
Help me!
Damn it, Slippy, get off my back! In the comics, Eros is the brother of Thanos, whom he grew up with on the planet Titan. Eros, his sidekick, I guess, / valet / horrifying CGI monstrosity, Pip the Troll, also shows up in that mid-credits scene. Pip is best known as a compatriot of Adam Warlock's, who of course was hinted at in the post-credits scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He also, thanks to a little magical plot junk, can teleport and has the ability to locate any individual, which of course makes sense of Starfox's claim of being able to find the missing Eternals. He's voiced by Patton Oswalt, who of course was also previously attached to the MCU through his work on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where he played everyone's favorite clones, the Koenig brothers. And here's one you definitely missed if you pay zero attention to the credits. I know I was surprised to see his name after months of rumors that guest star of the guest? Dan Stevens would be the voice of the villainous deviant Crow. Welp, actually that role went to Pennywise himself, Bill Skarsgard. And Dan Stevens is nowhere to be seen in Eternals, which on the one hand, cool to hear Skarsgard, but on the other hand, man, I really wish I could tell them the final product. Now, lots of eagle-eyed viewers have pointed this out, but for those in the back, yes, Cersei actor Gemma Chan has been in the MCU before, and not all that long ago. She played the villainous Minerva in 2019's Captain Marvel. I guess since she was blue, they figured no one would, really care. Now, those in the know, when it comes to the comic side of things, shouldn't have been too surprised by Arishem being, a big old bad guy. Not only is he, obviously bad news, but in those comics, he's also literally called the Killer of Planets. By the by, if you could hear past all the epic post-processing, you might have found the voice of Arishem to be somewhat familiar. The Celestial is voiced by David Kaye, who's lent his voice to a massive number of projects over the years. He's the voice of Clank in the Ratchet & Clank video game franchise, he's General Hawk in G.I. Joe, and he even voiced Jarvis in various Marvel TV projects like Avengers Assemble, where he also voiced my personal fave, Baron Zemo, and those weird Heroes United CGI movie things. That's all just the tip of the iceberg, of course, but the point being, dude's got a pedigree. And in the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z, he was Raccoon! And hey, if you thought Arishem's title in the old Eternals comic wasn't enough to judge him as, well, a super obvious antagonist, then Earth X is here to serve. This miniseries postulates that the potential for superhuman beings was implanted in the Earth by Celestials who wanted these superpowered dudes and dudettes to protect, you guessed it, the Celestial that Earth was impregnated with in the long, long ago, and which, once born, in this case, after feeding on our natural resources, would of course destroy the planet. Just, lots of bad news from them Celestials, that's what I'm saying. They're not good guys. There's also a lot of references to Neil Gaiman's run on the Eternals, including Sprite's obsession with becoming an adult. In fact, in the comic run, Sprite winds up being a major antagonist, and once all is said and done, he straight up just gets his neck snapped by the Eternal Zurus. The idea of the Dreaming Celestial Tiamat is also a big part of this arc, so if you want to just get more, I guess, out of your love of this film, if you loved it, go read Neil Gaiman's Eternals run. I'm sorry I spoiled it for you. Whoops. Speaking of Sprite, we get a lot of references to historical figures who were in turn just Eternals the whole time or affected by Eternals in some way. In the credits, we get a few, including an image suggesting Sprite aided in Houdini's magic act. We also earlier get a great comparison between Sprite and Tinkerbell, the idea being that Tinkerbell can't be with Peter Pan, much like how Sprite can't be with Icarus. And this seems like a fairly obvious direct nod to the comics, wherein we find out that Sprite was the inspiration for Peter Pan. That was a drum roll, by the way. Another comic reference that's a bit more direct is the pose Icarus strikes after breaking free of his Phastos-created bonds during the final battle. The same pose and eye laser sexiness found on the cover of Eternals #6. You may also have noticed in the opening crawl a reference to the 6 Singularities. If you didn't manage to put 2 and 2 together, I guess 3 and 3, whatever, they were a reference to the Infinity Stones.
There were 6 singularities.
Oh, and you know how Icarus flies into the sun at the end like some sort of superpowered dork who just got turned down for prom? Well, that was shoehorned into the movie because, hey, he's Icarus. He flew too close to the sun. They literally mention this in the movie. Because, Greek mythology, baby. Come on. Now, Druig is an interesting change of sorts for the Eternals. Usually he's the one to betray or double-cross his teammates, but of course, this being an MCU movie, something like that just has to be turned on its head.
I wouldn't go in there for 20 minutes.
But that didn't stop the filmmakers from giving him a little villainous edge. This is another one that I doubt you missed it, but I kind of just wanted to talk about it. Wasn't it fascinating how he just kind of has a cult? Seriously, the group meets in a freaking church in the middle of a commune in which Druig has complete control over all those within, and he comes mighty close to forcing them to sacrifice their lives before sending them to the river to escape. Like, I'm shocked they weren't all just like drinking Flavor-Aid or something. The Eternals are also linked heavily to Babylon in the comics, so it's no wonder they settle there for a bit in the film. Thena's romantic ties to Crow, something teased in the trailer, but of course unconsummated in the film, began in the Herod Factor, wherein the Eternals battled the Deviants over the city of Babylon. This was also the city ruled over by Gilgamesh, hence his place in mythology. It's also suggested in the film that, I guess Thanos was kinda right? It's explained that the Celestial needed the energy created by the full population of Earth, and if that population was cut in half, then the Dreaming Celestial wouldn't have been born, or at least, not at this particular moment in time. Yet another point for the Thanos did nothing wrong camp.
You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
In the trailer and the film, we also get the long-standing tradition of a glimpse at Cap's shield, in this case on board Kingo's private plane. I guess the dude's a fan of Cap and collects memorabilia. I wonder if he ever hung out with Coulson. Oh, and if you're not in the know when it comes to music, don't worry, neither am I, and I did have to look this one up in between haggling over Sammy Hagar tickets. After Kingo name drops the Korean band BTS at his studio, the next song we hear is, of course, Friends by BTS. The Domo, the ship used by the Eternals, is based somewhat on the comics, where Domo is actually, well, this guy. Domo's job is essentially to handle the affairs of other Eternals in Olympia, which is a real place and not a phony construct like in the film. He's essentially an invulnerable, undying secretary. Another minor comic book reference comes in the form of Thena's Mahd Wy'ry, which is basically eternal Alzheimer's and is a pretty messed up, scary concept. The idea is that while the Eternals have immortal, borderline impervious to harm bodies, their minds are essentially just those of normal humans. As you can imagine, a few millennia can have a strong effect on one's mental well-being, as Cersei found out in Avengers number 361. This might just be me stretching for links to other properties, but did y'all notice that the way Sprite is communicating with ancient civilizations and creating myths and legends is a whole lot like how C-3PO tells stories to the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi? Just saying. There's also a character reading a Star Wars book at one point, and it is Disney, so like, I don't know, synergy?
Oh, is there a big battle going on? I couldn't tell. Stop calling me!
Okay, I think I'm done. There were a bunch of references in Eternals, but not a whole lot in the way of things you might have missed, unless you're somehow blind to shots of characters in silhouette in front of the setting sun, in which case, oh boy, you missed a lot.